Good evening, this is your 28storms.com tropical weather update for Saturday, October 1st. Ophelia is now a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 140 miles per hour, but luckily it did narrowly miss Bermuda just to the east, so the island was basically unscathed. However, we do expect tropical storm conditions over the southeast coast of Newfoundland, and we do have tropical storm watches in effect. The general model agreement is that the center of Ophelia will pass over southeast Newfoundland. The model tracks that show a quicker turn more toward the east are considered unlikely. Tropical Storm Philippe is also on the verge of becoming a hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 70 miles per hour. However, the satellite presentation is not very optimistic with this possibly becoming a hurricane. In fact, the upper level winds appear to be too unfavorable, and it has more than likely maxed out at 70 miles per hour. And also the official forecast shows a recurvature well to the east of Bermuda. Much of the deep tropical Atlantic and into the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico are clear of any significant weather this evening. We have Hurricane Ophelia passing to the north and will soon be exiting this picture. And more toward the southeast, this is Tropical Storm Philippe, and it is being sheared by quite a lot of northwesterly winds aloft. You can see it a little bit better on the water vapor. We have this mid to upper level trough beginning to impinge on it from the northeast, and it looks like this pattern is going to remain unfavorable, and there's a fairly good chance that Philippe will begin to weaken just a little bit before making that turn more toward the northeast. And if we look toward the Carolina coast, here's that significant trough that is protecting much of the United States. It's the main reason why Ophelia made the turn during the time that it did, and this is also going to guarantee that Philippe is going to make a recurve within the next 5 to 6 days. The eastern United States water vapor shows this trough a little bit better. The good news is that Ophelia will begin to merge with this non-tropical system before it makes landfall over southeast Newfoundland. It will begin to also encounter slightly cooler water temperatures and a little bit more southwest wind shear, so it is very likely that Ophelia will weaken to at least a minimal hurricane and more than likely a strong tropical storm. So tropical storm force winds appear to be very likely for portions of Newfoundland, especially just to the south of St. John's. In the eastern Pacific, the tropics are generally quiet. However, we do have a weak disturbance located to the south of Mexico. You can see it this evening on the enhanced infrared. It's not very organized at this time, but the Hurricane Center is monitoring it for tropical development. The latest 12Z run of the Canadian CMC model shows Tropical Storm Philippe recurving well to the east of Bermuda as that trough begins to come in from the western Atlantic. It also shows a very active pattern to the south of Mexico, and several of these features will have to be monitored for development. The latest run of the GFS model is also showing both of our systems in the central Atlantic making a recurve more toward the northeast, but also here by day 6, if we go ahead and pause it, this is the same tropical disturbance being highlighted by the Hurricane Center. The GFS has this as a tropical cyclone well to the south of the Baja Peninsula by day 7. The 12Z run of the European is in general agreement with the CMC and GFS this evening. We see that both of our systems in the Atlantic are going to recurve, but in fact, the European is weakening Tropical Storm Philippe below tropical cyclone intensity. In fact, it only has a remnant low to the southeast of Bermuda by 72 hours. As we go into days 4 and day 5, we see that it clearly merges with the non-tropical trough that is centered over the Canadian Maritimes. The rest of the Atlantic is quiet. However, in the eastern Pacific, much like the other models are suggesting, we will have several areas of broad low pressure that will have to be monitored. And in fact, as we go throughout the remainder of the forecast period, the European model is keeping those areas of low pressure fairly close to Mexico, so that definitely warrants some attention. Now, unlike yesterday when the European was developing a tropical cyclone in the western Caribbean by day 10, the model is now showing a much broader area of low pressure that may actually focus itself more into the southwest Atlantic. If that were to occur, we could still get some hybrid or subtropical development. However, by day 10, it's being picked up by that trough and is gradually becoming more extratropical in nature as it heads on off to sea. Nevertheless, we will continue to monitor the western Caribbean in the extended range for any sign of tropical cyclogenesis. So that wraps up your tropical weather update for this Saturday evening. Please check by again tomorrow afternoon for another video.